Hi, I'm Lauren, and I'm 31 years old. I'm doing well in my career as an interior designer. Life was pretty good, and I thought I had the perfect family. But everything took a turn when my brother Paul met Anna. One day, Paul called me, excited to tell me some news. Lauren, you won't believe it. I've met the most amazing woman, he said. I was happy for him, because we've always been close. Growing up, our parents raised us to be a tight family. We shared everything and always had each other's backs. Fast forward just 2 months, and Paul dropped another surprise. We're getting married, he announced one morning. I was so shocked, I almost spit out my coffee. Married? Paul, you barely know her, I said, but he was so in love that nothing I said could change his mind. The wedding happened in a blur, and before I knew it, I had a new sister-in-law. At first, Anna seemed sweet. She was all smiles and very polite. But something didn't feel quite right. During a family dinner, she would make little comments that caught my attention. Oh, Lauren's still single? Don't worry, you'll find someone eventually, she'd say, always smiling but with a slight edge to her words. I tried to ignore it at first, thinking I was overreacting. But as time went on, the comments kept coming. They seemed friendly on the surface, but there was always a hidden criticism. One day, while helping my mom in the kitchen, I overheard Anna talking to Paul. Honey, don't you think Lauren's job is a bit unstable? I'm just worried about her future, she said. Hearing that made me so angry. I had worked hard to build my business, and it was doing really well.
How could she say that?
Things got even worse at Paul's birthday party. Anna accidentally spilled wine on my brand new dress. Oh, I'm so clumsy, she said with a fake laugh. But don't worry, it probably wasn't that expensive, right? I smiled politely, but inside, I was fuming. Later that night, I talked to my best friend Emma about it. Emma, something's not right with Anna, I said. Emma nodded in agreement. I've noticed it too. The way she looks at you when no one's watching, like she's trying to compete with you. I sighed. But Paul is so happy, and Mom and Dad love her. Am I just being paranoid? Emma shook her head. Trust your gut, Lauren. Keep an eye on her.
So I did.
I started paying more attention to how Anna behaved around my family. Slowly but surely, she began to insert herself into every part of our lives. She offered to help my dad with his finances, telling him he was doing it wrong and showing him how to improve things. She even reorganized my mom's kitchen, claiming it would be more efficient her way. What bothered me most was how Anna's influence changed Paul. My brother, who used to be outgoing and full of life, became quieter. He started letting Anna make decisions for him. On a shopping trip with my mom, I tried to bring it up. Mom, have you noticed anything different about Paul lately? I asked carefully. My mom hesitated before responding. Well, he's a married man now, sweetie. Change is normal. Yes, but Mom, it's like he's not himself anymore, I replied, worried. She patted my hand and smiled. You're just not used to sharing him. Give it time. But time only seemed to make things worse. Every family event was filled with tense silences and passive-aggressive comments from Anna. It was like walking on eggshells every time we were together. I could see that my family was slowly changing, and not for the better. I wasn't sure what to do next, but one thing was clear. Anna wasn't the person she pretended to be. I always tried to keep the peace. Whenever Anna made those sneaky, mean comments, I would bite my tongue and stay quiet. But it was starting to affect me. The stress was getting too much, and I could feel it in my work. My design started to suffer, and I wasn't sleeping well at night. One evening, after a particularly rough family dinner where Anna quietly criticized everything from my outfit to my latest design project, I couldn't take it anymore. I broke down in my apartment, feeling completely overwhelmed. The phone rang. It was Emma, my best friend. Lauren, are you okay? You seemed off at dinner, she said, sounding worried. I couldn't hold back any longer. Everything came pouring out, my doubts, my fears, and how I felt that Anna was slowly pulling Paul away from the family. Emma listened carefully and then said in a firm voice, Enough is enough, Lauren. It's time to find out what's really going on with Anna. There's more to her than meets the eye, and we're going to figure it out. After we hung up, I felt a mixture of determination and fear. I loved my family, and I would do anything to protect them, even if it meant uncovering the truth about Anna. Little did I know, things were about to get a lot worse. The annual family barbecue at my parents' house was supposed to be a day of fun and bonding. Instead, it turned into a nightmare that I'll never forget. Everyone was gathered in the backyard. Dad was grilling, Mom was setting out the salads, and Paul was helping Anna with her chair. I was chatting with my cousin when I suddenly heard Anna's voice cut through the noise. "Lauren, sweetie, could you grab me a drink? You're not doing anything important, right?" I was about to respond when Mom called everyone to eat, but the tension was already thick, and during the meal, Anna kept making her little jabs. "This potato salad is delicious, Mom. Much better than the store-bought one Lauren brought last time." I couldn't take it anymore. I snapped back. "At least I contribute something, Anna. What exactly do you bring to these gatherings besides criticism?" The table went silent. Everyone looked shocked. Anna's eyes narrowed at me, and she shot back. "Well, I bring class for one thing. Something you clearly lack." Without thinking, I retorted, "Class? Is that what you call being a manipulative?" Before I could finish, Paul interrupted, looking completely stunned. "Lauren," he said, shocked that I was finally speaking up. Anna stood up from the table, tears forming in her eyes. "I can't believe you would say such things to me after everything I've done for this family," she cried out and stormed off, with Paul rushing after her. I sat there, still angry, while my parents gave me disappointed looks, clearly not happy with how I had handled things. Later, as I was helping to clean up, Anna cornered me in the kitchen. Her sweet demeanor was gone, and her voice was cold. "Listen here, you little nobody. Paul is mine now. Soon enough, the whole family will see you for the jealous, pathetic person you are." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're delusional, Anna," I shot back. That's when she did something I never expected. She grabbed a fistful of my hair and yanked it hard. "Am I? Let's see what Paul thinks about his precious sister now," she said with a twisted smile. Before I knew it, she was dragging me by my hair into the living room where Paul was talking with Dad.
Paul,
"Look what your sister did. She attacked me," Anna cried out, pretending to be the victim. Paul's eyes widened in shock as he looked at me. "Lauren, what the hell?" he said, clearly confused and upset. I stood there, stunned, trying to process what had just happened, knowing things would never be the same again. I tried to explain the situation, but Anna's fake tears drowned out anything I had to say. She was putting on a show, making it look like I was the bad guy. Paul looked confused and upset. "I think you should leave, Lauren," he said softly but firmly. I left, feeling humiliated and furious. The next day, my best friend Emma came over and found me still in the same clothes from the day before, surrounded by empty ice cream containers. She looked at me and said, "That's it. We're not going to let her get away with this anymore. It's time to fight back." Over the next week, Emma and I started digging into Anna's past. The more we looked, the more strange things we found. Some of the stories Anna had told didn't add up. For example, the college she said she went to had no record of her. And the companies she claimed to have worked for didn't even exist. Then, by chance, I bumped into someone who would change everything. I was grabbing coffee when a woman named Angela introduced herself. "Oh, you know Anna?" she asked. "Is she still up to her old tricks?" My eyes widened in surprise. "What do you mean?" I asked her. Angela spilled everything. Anna had a history of bullying people at work, manipulating her coworkers, and even getting some of them fired by setting them up. Angela herself had been a victim. Anna planted fake evidence that got her fired for theft. "Be careful," Angela warned me. "Anna is dangerous when she feels cornered." I left the coffee shop with my mind spinning. I now had proof that Anna wasn't who she pretended to be. She was a manipulative liar, and I had to do something. But as I reached for my phone to call Paul, I hesitated. Would he even believe me? Or would this just push him further away from me? I stood there, torn between wanting to protect my brother and worrying that I might lose what was left of our relationship. After weeks of debating with myself, I finally made a decision. I called James, a private investigator who had been recommended by one of my clients. We met at a quiet coffee shop, and I handed him a folder with everything Emma and I had found so far. "So, you want me to dig into your sister-in-law's past?" he asked, flipping through the pages. "Yes," I replied. "I need more information. I need the full picture." James whistled as he went through the folder. "Your sister-in-law has more red flags than a parade," he said, shaking his head. "I'll see what I can find." 5 weeks later, James called me with news that sent chills down my spine. "Lauren," he said, "your sister-in-law isn't just a liar. She's a professional con artist. She's been involved in fraud in 3 different states and has used multiple identities over the years. And here's the worst part, she's been using your brother's business to launder money." My hands shook as I listened. "How is she doing that?" I asked. "Fake invoices, ghost employees, the works," James explained. "Your brother's business is a ticking time bomb. If this keeps going, it's only a matter of time before it all blows up." I thanked James and hung up the phone, my heart racing. I knew I had to tell Paul the truth, but I didn't know how. How could I break this news to him without completely shattering his world? Anna wasn't just a problem in the family anymore. She was putting Paul's entire life and his business at serious risk. Now, I was faced with a difficult choice. I loved my brother and wanted to protect him, but I knew that exposing Anna would turn everything upside down. I wasn't sure how far I was willing to go, but one thing was clear. Anna's mask had finally slipped, and there was no going back. It was time to reveal the truth, no matter how hard it would be. Before I could make any decisions about how to handle things, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Family dinner tonight. Anna insists. Please come."
Great. Just great.
I knew this dinner was going to be tense, and the last thing I wanted was another uncomfortable night with Anna pretending everything was perfect. When I arrived, the tension was so thick it felt like you could cut it with a knife. Anna was all smiles, but her eyes were cold every time she looked at me. During dinner, she leaned over to Paul and said, "Honey, why don't you tell everyone about our vacation plans?" She smiled tightly, almost like she was daring me to react. Paul cleared his throat. "Well, we're thinking about taking an extended trip, maybe for 3 months. I nearly choked on my wine. 2 months? What about the business?" I asked, shocked. Anna's smile got even tighter. "Oh, Paul can run things remotely, right, sweetie?" she said, as if she had already made the decision for him. Paul just nodded along, looking unsure but unwilling to challenge her. After dinner, I pulled Paul aside in the kitchen. "This trip, are you sure about this?" I asked quietly. He sighed and looked down. "Lauren, please. Anna thinks it'll be good for us to get away for a while, have some time apart from everything here." I bit my tongue, realizing how deeply Anna had him wrapped around her finger. Paul didn't seem like himself anymore. Over the next few days, I reached out to Angela and some of the other people Anna had wronged in the past. We formed a small support group, sharing our stories and any evidence we had collected about Anna's manipulative behavior. "We need to stop her before she ruins more lives," Angela said during one of our meetings. I nodded, feeling a plan starting to form in my mind. For the next week, I worked hard, gathering every single piece of evidence I could find. I wanted to make sure I had enough proof to convince everyone. But Anna wasn't stupid. She must have sensed something was going on. One evening, as I was leaving my office, I found my car tire slashed. A note was left on the windshield that read, "Back off, or next time it won't be just the tires." My hands shook as I called Emma. "She knows, Emma. Anna knows I'm onto her." Emma's voice was firm. "Then we move now, before she can do any more damage." I agreed. It was time to act. I called my parents, Paul, and the rest of the family. "Emergency family meeting tomorrow night. It's about Paul's safety," I told them. As soon as I hung up, doubt started creeping in. Was I doing the right thing? What if this plan backfired? But then I remembered Paul's defeated look, how Anna had twisted everything and manipulated him. I had to do this for him. The next day felt like it dragged on forever. I triple-checked all my evidence and practiced what I was going to say. Just as the evening approached, I got a text from Paul. "Anna's not feeling well. We might not make it." My heart sank. Of course, she would try to avoid the meeting. I quickly texted back, "Please, Paul. It's important." I wouldn't ask if it wasn't. Hours passed with no response. I started losing hope, thinking that Paul might never show up. But just when I was about to give up, I heard the sound of a car pulling up outside my apartment. My heart raced. Was it Paul? I walked toward the door, unsure of what would happen next, but knowing that everything was about to change. I peeked out the window and saw Paul helping Anna out of the car. She looked pale, leaning on him dramatically, as if trying to make everyone feel sorry for her. When they entered my apartment, the tension in the room was so strong you could feel it. My parents, Emma, Angela, and a few others were already there. Anna clearly didn't expect to see all these faces. "What's going on?" Paul asked, confusion all over his face. I took a deep breath and said, "Paul, everyone, it's time you knew the truth about Anna." Anna's eyes narrowed. "Lauren, you're being ridiculous," she snapped, but I didn't let her continue. I pulled out a stack of documents I had been gathering for weeks. "Anna, or should I say Melissa? Or maybe Nancy? How many identities do you have?" I asked, my voice steady. Paul's face turned pale as I laid out all the evidence. The stolen identities, the fraud charges, and the way she had been laundering money through his business. Angela and the others backed me up, sharing their own experiences of how Anna had manipulated and deceived them in the past. Anna tried to cut in, her voice rising in panic. "They're lying, Paul. Baby, you know me. You know I wouldn't do this." But Paul wasn't buying it anymore. I could see the disbelief in his eyes turning into anger. "Is it true? Have you been using my company to launder money?" he asked her, his voice shaking. That's when Anna's mask finally cracked. The sweet, innocent act she'd been putting on disappeared, and her true self came out. "You're all idiots," she screamed. "Paul, you are so easy to manipulate. And the rest of you? You're pathetic." My mom gasped, my dad's fists clenched, and Paul looked completely broken. Anna tried to make a run for the door, but Angela stepped in her way. "Not so fast," Angela said firmly. "The police are on their way." The next few hours felt like a blur. Anna was arrested, screaming threats as the police led her away. Paul sat there silently, trying to process everything that had just happened. Days turned into weeks, and Paul filed for divorce. He worked day and night to save his business from the mess Anna had created. And I was there for him every step of the way. Months later, we were celebrating the successful relaunch of Paul's company. He pulled me aside and said, "Lauren, I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. Thank you for not giving up on me." I hugged him tightly, feeling like our bond was stronger than ever. As I looked around at my family, now free from Anna's toxic influence, I realized how important it is to trust your instincts. Standing up to someone who tries to tear your family apart is hard, but it's worth it. We were free. We were together. And we were stronger after going through the storm. That's the end of my story, but now I want to ask you something. If you found out your sibling's spouse was a criminal, would you expose them or stay quiet to protect your sibling's happiness? What's more important to you, family peace or justice? Let me know your thoughts. I know this is a tough one, and I'm really curious to hear what you would do. If you enjoyed this wild ride, make sure to hit that like button.